Good afternoon. I love this feedback. Come on. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Madison. I'm Teresa Holmes, Club President. Thank you all for being with us today. Today's meeting is sponsored by Ashley Quinto Powell of My VA Rocks LLC and Sarah Best of Sarah Best Strategy. And our thanks to both of them for their sponsorship of today's luncheon. Let's direct our attention to our opening music. Yes, I hope you've heard, we love to sing here. Heidi Frankson will be leading us in the singing of This Land Is Your Land with Elaine Mishler on piano. And following our patriotic song, please be seated as we listen to Debbie Biddle's version of a video of Edelweiss.
Before we get started, can everyone put their masks on? That's... This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me an endless skyway. I saw below me a golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made for you and me.
Following the Edelweiss presentation, Mary Ellen O'Brien will introduce our guests.
Hello, everyone. We have lots of guests today, and we'd like to warmly welcome them. As I call your names, please stand and remain standing so that we can recognize you as a group. Karen Andro, guest of Rhonda Adams. Ricardo Blank, guest of Herman Bauman. Deborah Jenkin, guest of Herman Bauman. Jonathan Fritz, guest of President Holmes. Jennifer Johnson, guest of President Holmes. Derek Smith, guest of Bob Sorge. Emily Luxinger, guest of Rob Stroud, Tyler Scheffner, guest of Gloria Reyes, Kristen Uteman, guest of Brian Uteman, Whitney Thomas, Program Committee, Willie Watkins, Program Committee. Arlie Estrada, guest of Juan Lopez, I'm not sure she's quite here yet. Marilee Olson, guest of Dave Edinger, and Vincent Iogo, guest Rotarian from Carmichael, California. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Thank you, Music Committee, as well. Rotarians, we have a new member to introduce today. Will Ansi Luwali please stand with his sponsor, Peter Gray? Ansi has been loaned the classification of hotels and is director of operations for the Edgewater Hotel here in Madison. He was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and now makes his home on Boothway Circle with his wife, Agi. The president passed, and their 2 children. Ansi earned a bachelor's degree in business administration and finance from Drury University. He also holds a diploma in communication from the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, and he enjoys reading, biographies, and playing soccer. Please join me in welcoming our newest member, Ansi Luwali. As Rotarians, we're glad when members attend the luncheon meeting in the room, and even more glad when we are welcoming and inviting a new member to our family. All right, today I have part 2 of my Traveling with Teresa series from the concerts on the square. So for some of you who don't know, I've been going out into the community to bring Rotary some extra visibility while I share information about our club. A few weeks ago, I shared a brief video of me at the Concerts on the Square event. Today, we are going to see more from that event. Let's take a look at the video. Ready?
Yep.
Hi, Teresa. Hello.
Fellow Rotarian.
I am Teresa Holmes, the president of the Rotary Club of Madison.
Hot damn.
Yeah. I like her. Hot damn.
Absolutely. Of course.
Have you heard of the Rotary Club of Madison?
I have.
And how about you? And you? Come on now, I'm batting 1,000 almost. And
I've been to a few.
all right, great. So we have the best podium in town. Have you heard about that? And so what's happening here is I am out on the street tonight. It's called Concerts on the Square is my street. And I am creating a series called Traveling with Teresa. So I'm going out, talking to people, just ad hoc, asking them if they know anything about the Rotary Club of Madison. And if they don't, I'm telling them a little bit and then inviting people to lunch to join us. So I can find him by calling. Okay.
I'll send you an email.
Oh, please do. And I'd love to have you as my guest.
Do you like Irish whiskey, man?
You know what?
Yeah, right?
So we have a fellowship group called Scotch Whiskey. And Lynn, have you ever been in that one? Because they have a lot of whiskey there.
Oh my God.
And so
Yeah.
I'm learning, only of course. When we invite someone to lunch, they come to lunch, and as my guest, we show the video segment of how I met you.
Perfect.
All right, see? We got it! She's batting 1,000 today.
Here's to the Rotary.
Here's to the Rotary. New friendships.
To the Rotary.
New friendships. Indeed.
Come on,
All right,
Scott.
all right, I'm going to try this.
I love this woman. She's a great president.
Scotch Whiskey Fellowship Group. That was the second time I had scotch. Chris and Jennifer Johnson were included in the video. Chris was my guest last week, and Jennifer Johnson is in our audience today. So would you, Jennifer, and Jonathan Michael Fritz, who was also at that event, please stand. Let's thank the Rotarians for attending. You'll see a few others that you saw in the video will be future guests of mine in a Rotary Luncheon. And I would like to also thank Neil Farbach, who's been helping me with the videos, and Lynn Sexton, who was our background videographer. All right, Steve Goldberg chairs this year's Manfred Zwarzenski Humanitarian Service Award Committee, and he has an update with an announcement for us.
Greetings, fellow Rotarians, and welcome to one of the most exciting parts of your day. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Manfred Zwarzenski Humanitarian Service Award, which was established in 1982 by this club to honor the life and legacy of Rabbi Zwarzenski, who was a longtime, much-loved member of this club. He was also a local and global exemplar of community service and humanitarian service. And incidentally, this man was also my rabbi. So I'm especially honored to be able to chair this year's award committee, which will recognize outstanding leadership in our community by people who have demonstrated a commitment to humanitarian service in the tradition of Rabbi Zwarzenski. The deadline for submitting your nominations is October 1. That's 23 days from today if you're counting. And you've got copies of the nomination form at your table. The nomination form is also accessible online through the club website. The award is not only prestigious as an honor in its own right, it brings with it a $2,500 donation from the Madison Rotary Foundation to a nonprofit organization selected by the award recipient. The recipients have included both Rotarians and non-Rotarians, and I'll give you a couple names that you'll recognize. Honorees have included Dr. Floyd Rose, Melanie Ramey, Muleli Chikasa Anana, Masood Akhtar, and Carol Toussaint, and a variety of other people in the illustrious 39-year history of this rather special award program. We already have 2 nominations that have been submitted, and we're looking for more. We're looking for your help in identifying people who are associated in a volunteer or leadership capacity with an organization that you value, that you appreciate, and if you think they'd be worthy of this award, please submit the nomination. You may also want to look forward to the presentation that Gloria Reyes is about to make in our program, because the program theme for today, and that is how do we treat homeless children and serve them in our community, is a humanitarian topic, and it would resonate with Rabbi Zwarzenski. Something else that would resonate with Rabbi Zwarzenski, if he were here, he'd wish all of you a Happy New Year, because this is the beginning of the Jewish New Year. So I'll say that for him. Happy New Year. And thanks to all of you for helping us identify people who would be worthy of an award that honors the life and legacy of a man who truly lived a life of service above self.
Thank you, Steve. We have a Rotary pop-up event tonight in Fitchburg. Is Paul Hoffman in the room? Oh, he is here. So our Vice President, Paul Hoffman of Monona Bank, is inviting Rotarians and their guests to tonight's Jazz at 5 in McKee, at McKee Park in Fitchburg. The event runs from 5 to 8 p.m., and Monona Bank is providing light appetizers and beverages. There are also food carts on site if you'd want to purchase a meal. And the bank has 3 tables on the party patio for about 20 people. So we still have room left. And so if you can attend, please let Pat, Jane, or Sharon know before leaving, or Paul, before leaving today's meeting. Or you could contact the Rotary office if you'd like to attend tonight's event. And the president will be there working on another Traveling with Teresa video. We have birthdays to celebrate with a bit of humor or wisdom that complements our Rotary mission. We also encourage our members to make an age-appropriate gift to the Madison Rotary Foundation, rounded up to $100, for our club's Synergy Scholarship Fund. Rotarians, if you are in the room when I call your name, please stand. September 7th, Mark Green. September 9th, Melinda Heinrichs. I know she's here. September 9th, Mike Wilson. September 11th, Emily Greenwald, who says, and shares a quote from George Bernard Shaw, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." We have 2 additional birthdays to recognize this week. Jane Costner and Sharon Nimnitz. Sharon, where art thou? From our Rotary staff. Sharon's in the hallway, I believe. Sharon celebrated her birthday on Sunday, and Jane celebrated her birthday on Monday. When I first joined the Rotary Club about 5 years ago and found out that Sharon and Jane had birthdays right around the same time I did, we had an initial girls powwow, birthday powwow. Remember that, Jane? That was pretty fun. Yeah, so thanks to our celebrants for their contributions to the Madison Rotary Foundation. Please join me in wishing all of them a happy birthday. Haha, indeed. Happy birthday. Members in the news. I have a few members in the news to highlight today, but first I want to mention that Mike Engelberger's mother, our own Rotarian, Juanita Mary Engelberger, passed away on August 27th in Marshall. So we extend our condolences to Mike and to his family. And now, the members in the news I'd like to highlight. Congratulations to the following members whose businesses are winners of the 2021 People's Choice Award by Madison.com and the Wisconsin State Journal. If you're in the room, would you please stand? Rhonda Adams, Julie Arlick, John Hayes, Paul Hoffman, Rich Lynch, Kyle Nondorf, and Lester Pines. Thank you. Other members in the news, Calvin Barrett was pictured in a LinkedIn post where he served as an honorary team captain for the UW-Madison Badgers opening game against Penn State on September 4th. And our own Charles Tubbs was interviewed by WMTV Channel 15 in a story on Memorial Day which honors people who lost deaths to overdose as part of Overdose Awareness Day on August 31st. Now, on to our program. Our speaker today is our very own Gloria Reyes, who became CEO of Briarpatch Youth Services last October. For this organization that has been in operation 50 years within our community. Gloria has committed her career to public service. She has served as the president of the Madison School Board. She was previously deputy mayor for the City of Madison and was a law enforcement officer for the Madison Police Department for 13 years. She was raised in Madison and attended UW-Madison, receiving a bachelor's degree in behavioral science and law and criminal justice and a master's degree in public administration. She's going to share current challenges of our homeless and justice-involved youth in our community, as well as Briarpatch's innovative approaches in serving our most vulnerable populations during a critical time in our community. We look forward to your presentation, Gloria, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way to say thank you for speaking to us today. Please remember, if you have Q&A at the end of Gloria's presentation, to wait for the mic. It'll be roaming through the room. And so, let's welcome Gloria to our podium.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here with all of you today, my fellow Rotarians. I am a new Rotarian, so it's really great to be in this space with all of you. I have with me today some of our street outreach staff, and I want to introduce them. We have Tyler Schufner, who is back there somewhere. Well, he's against the wall. We have Willie Watkins. Thank you. And we have Whitney Thomas. And they're going to help me answer some questions afterwards. I first want to start off by sharing a little bit about myself and why I am so committed to Briarpatch and the work that we do in serving our most vulnerable youth in our community. It's always important to share our why, right? Because it is really important to really be committed into what we do. And I think some of you may know my story, so you'll just have to hear it again. My parents were migrant farm workers. They traveled throughout the country with the seasons. And I happened to be born in Watoma, Wisconsin in the 70s. Summer months. And it was also during the time when Cesar Chavez was really fighting for better living conditions and wages for our migrant farm workers. My parents came to Madison to protest, right? That's why everybody comes to Madison, right? Protest. They fell in love with the Capitol. They fell in love with the UW campus. And they decided to settle here. They settled here with limited English, no job experience, third grade education level. And so we stayed. We lived place to place. We moved around a lot. I remember sleeping on floors with friends, family, whoever would take us in. Never really had a room to call my own until I was a young adult. I found myself failing in school on a path to the criminal justice system. But it was the investment that this community provided me and my family that transformed not only my life, but the lives of an entire family. And that is what Briarpatch does. Our children, you won't see on the street. You won't see them at a park. They usually are living in motels. They may be living with friends. Our children are experiencing significant challenges with parents or family that have lost housing, and really just navigating a place to stay. They're day to day just trying to find food. Our children are leaving their homes sometimes due to violence, abuse. Our children are LGBTQ, transgender, who are not accepted in the home and trying to find a place where they can navigate a very difficult transition and coming out. And I want to share this story. This story was shortly after, this incident happened shortly after I started Briarpatch. It was last year, winter, right in the midst of COVID. We had a Madison police officer who came across two young boys, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And they were just walking around roaming the neighborhood. I think some people called the police to have them do a check welfare on them. The Madison police officer stopped and talked to them. And they said they had really no place to go. He mentioned Briarpatch. And he asked if they needed a ride. They said that they didn't want to get into a squad car and did not need a ride, but they would take a bus. So I got a call from Madison Police saying that they had two boys and that they may be coming to Briarpatch on a bus. I was very reluctant. I'm like, I wonder if I was worried, right? I was wondering whether they were going to make it to Briarpatch or not on the bus. And they did. They showed up. 12-year-old boy and 14-year-old boy, hungry. Hadn't eaten in 2 days. We found out that mom is drug addicted and was not taking care of them. They spent a few days with us, and we were able to communicate with mom and some family members after the 2 days, and we were able to get them back home, along with some parent support and around some services for the family. And connected them to resources. Again, this is what Briarpatch does, changing the trajectory of the lives of our most vulnerable youth. Let me share with you some national statistics. Each year, an estimated 4.2 million youth and young adults experience homelessness, of which 700,000 are unaccompanied minors, meaning they are not part of a family or accompanied by a parent or guardian. On any given night, approximately 41,000 unaccompanied youth ages 13 to 25 experience homelessness. A Voices of Youth account out of Chicago found that 1 in 10 young adults ages 18 to 25 and at least 1 in 30 adolescents ages 13 to 17 experience some form of homelessness. Unaccompanied by a parent or guardian over the course of a year. 29% of homeless youth report having substance abuse problems. 69% of homeless youth report mental health problems. 33% had once been part of a foster care system. 50% of homeless youth have been in the juvenile justice system, in jail or detention. 27% of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning LGBTQ youth who are homeless reported exchanging sex for basic needs, compared to 9% of non-LGBTQ youth who reported having to exchange sex for basic needs. 62% of LGBTQ youth report being physically harmed while experiencing homelessness, while 47% of non-LGBTQ youth reported being physically harmed while homeless. The lack of a high school diploma and a general equivalency diploma is the #1 correlation for elevated risk of youth homelessness. Astonishing statistics. So let's bring it home, right? These are national numbers, but what's happening here in Dane County? So I'm going to play this video just to get us started here.
Well, what is the Briarpatch in literature? It's a place where you can go and be concealed and hidden, and if things go well, you can be protected. So that was the motivation. And it seemed to, for whatever reason, it seemed to click with people. Yeah, the Briarpatch, that would be us. We can be a Briarpatch.
I started with Briarpatch probably around the age of 18 because Briarpatch was already in the neighborhood. I was getting some good rapport from some of the people out in the community for the work that I was helping out with in the community and Ally. I ended up becoming the work team supervisor for Briarpatch. What nobody knew was I came to work every day, clean, dressed, and everything. I was living in the hotel across the street from Thayer Road, and I was coming to work every day.
Back in 2016, when I was a student at MATC and Madison Memorial High School, I was in a situation where I needed help, and one of my Madison College teachers reached out to Briarpatch to help me find housing.
In about 1971, my wife and I had looked into becoming foster parents, and it was clear that things were not working, at least in our eyes, the way they should. That what was needed was something other than having the police pick up runaways and return them to home. And there was also the fear that we just simply couldn't allow kids to wander around because of the Mifflin Street and the alternative culture that existed, the youth culture and all other things, that was not necessarily a healthy environment. So we had to, in effect, find some way of finding another way. And that was the origin of Briarpatch, is that let's simply create, if we can, an alternative agency that would treat kids and their families differently.
My experience was, my mom passed away, so I had to grow up. There was no question that that had to be the case. Being in that space, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. And there is a lot of trauma attached to becoming 18. Because also during that time, again, transitioning, trying to figure out where I was gonna stay, who I was gonna stay with, where I was going to go. So there's all these pressures.
I had a lot of difficulties, such as getting transportation to school and work, stable, housing, and making sure that I had money for school supplies and for food as well. I had no one by my side, none of my family members, and the people who supported me the most were Briarpatch.
I see Briarpatch as a huge catalyst, as before, of really advocating for not only young people in general, but there's this beautiful space where, creating space for young people to not, just like the shelter, but more of a communal space for our young adults and young people to be able to come to be a safe place to come and not only seek shelter, but also seek resources in the community.
I am who I am at this point because of Briarpatch, because they were that stepping stone that helped me gain the life skills that I needed to finish school and have stability in my life. What would have happened, I would have ended up homeless, without stability, and possibly I wouldn't have completed my internship and possibly wouldn't have graduated from high school.
Thank you. And it's amazing to listen to people who have been positively impacted by Briarpatch. When I first got this position, was hired, I had numerous emails and phone calls from people who are teachers now, who are deputy sheriffs, who are professionals out in our community. And it's somewhere down in their career, in their life, they received help from Briarpatch. So it's amazing the work that we do every day, changing the trajectory of children's lives. And so, the Briarpatch was founded in 1971. We're celebrating 50 years this year. In 2003, Community Adolescent Program, Project Hugs, and Youth Services of Southern Wisconsin merged to become what now is Briarpatch Youth Services. We support approximately 3,000 runaway, homeless, and at-risk youth and young adults every year. Our programs are separated. We have a runaway and homeless youth, so we have a shelter. We have a shelter with 8 beds, and so we have a street outreach team who is here with me today. We provide case management, temporary shelter. We have a 24-hour helpline, parent support, and we also have a Teens Like Us program. Our Teens Like Us program is an amazing program where we help and support youth who are LGBTQ, transgender, who are coming out at a very critical time in their life, right? And just providing a space where it's safe for them. We have a youth employment program. Youth employment is amazing, right? It is connecting kids early on to a profession, an area that they are interested in, and getting them some work experience. We also have a justice-involved youth programming where kids who enter into the juvenile justice system and get referred to us. And I'll talk a little bit about that here shortly. The 300 youth who are homeless each night in Dade County. There are 300 youth each night. And so again, runaway and homeless youth program. In 2019 and 2020, it was just an odd year for us, right? It was so up and down with COVID. But in 2019, we provided 861 nights of safe shelter, from ages 12 to 17 years old. Street outreach supported over 3,800 youth and young adults. We received 1,240 calls that were taken by our 24/7 helpline. And again, we have parent support program meetings held on a monthly basis for parents who are struggling, whether it be for domestic violence, loss of jobs, housing, really trying to relieve some of the stress that they have while they're raising young children. And then again, Teens Like Us. 1 in 3 homeless youth will be exploited for sex, right? We have human trafficking is happening in our communities, right? It's so quiet though and silent that you don't really see it, but it is happening. 86% of runaway youth report being physically abused, and 75% won't finish high school. This is a picture of Dean. He runs our employment program, and they work diligently with the young people we serve to create trusting relationships, provide guidance, and promote wise decision making. Our team works as mentors, advocates, partners, role models, and fill in the gap when needed. So our court involved, it really centers around restorative justice, right? It is about building accountability, but then also community safety in their actions. We have first-time and misdemeanor offenders who attend restorative justice programs. We have intensive supervision. Clients work directly with youth counselor and group programming. Our youth counselors in our youth restitution program. So kids actually work off any fines that they have or anything that's owed back to the victim. And so really building accountable, but also a learning environment to change their path into the right path, right? By wrapping ourselves around the youth depending on their needs. All court-involved programs guide youth in making wise decisions for better outcomes. Youth development. We have a job center. We have a support for success program curriculum where we teach kids just the basics, right? How to write a resume, how to interview for a job, what are qualities that you need in your day-to-day work environment. And so we have a summer employment program, Madison Summer Team. They work on farms and in the garden, how to build a garden, and they learn all those skills at Briarpatch. We'll just scroll through here. So in 2019, we employed 42 youth who earned over $37,000 in wages. 16 youth received MMSD credit, and we had a Northside team who worked with Dane Arts mural and did that mural that's in that picture right there. These are just some quotes that our kids had to say. I think I learned that having a job is more helpful than depending on other people. I'm going through a lot with family and my health. I need to feel comfortable and know where I can find food. And again, this is our team. This is an old picture. I gotta get in there somehow. They just have to put me in there. Yeah, Photoshop it. So, I do want to share another story. Recently, we had a young boy who came through. I'll call him Jonathan. He stayed in our shelter and engaged in individual and family counseling services in 2019. He stopped by Briarpatch in June this summer because he was in the area and wanted to say hello. Jonathan shared that he was doing really great, had a place of their own, and was working and had finished school. Jonathan stated that he felt that he owed a lot to Briarpatch for where he was today and wanted to come in and share his thanks. So it was really nice to see Jonathan again. This year, again, we are celebrating our 50 years. This year we are celebrating 50 years of service to youth in Dane County. There are cards. I will pass them out here shortly. And it outlined the events that we will have this year, so hopefully you can join one of them. We all have been impacted by COVID pandemic, and as we all know, it has had a significant impact on our most vulnerable communities, particularly our youth. Our children have demonstrated so much resiliency through this time. I seen it when I was the president of the Madison School Board. They have struggled with housing instability, interruption of a regular school environment, food insecurity, mental health, and many more challenges. And they need our help. As we celebrate and reflect the last 50 years of service, it is also a year that we transform, adjust, and plan to grow with the needs of our children well into the future. We are navigating a post-recovery COVID environment, and as service providers, we will have to adjust quickly for what is to come to ensure that we provide the best service for our children. It's going to take innovation, boots on the ground in our communities where we engage in our neighborhoods, our schools, parks, in this very changing environment. We believe that the investment that we make in our youth today is an investment in the future of the City of Madison and Dane County. It takes a community to raise a child. I am an example of that, and so is Jonathan, Ron, Alondra, who were on that video, and many other children that we see coming through our doors. Thank you so much for your time and listening and supporting the work of humanitarian work that you all do as Rotarians and your interest in Briarpatch. And I am now open for questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah.
Hi, Jeremiah.
I'm curious, so in light of the 50-year anniversary of Briarpatch, I'm curious what you learned, either yourself or as an organization. What misconceptions did you have early on about what helped people, kids experiencing homelessness, and what drives youth homelessness, and what have you learned about those things over that time?
Yeah, I've learned, we've learned at Briarpatch that it is a transient population, that it changes all the time, and that when we serve this population, we have to be really focused on their needs, on their particular needs, that it's not a one size fits all, right? And then we also learned that we have to have people with lived experience doing this work, right? We have Whitney over here. Whitney, stand up again. Whitney has a story, right? She understands the struggle as a mother and being homeless, a young mother. And having her coming out to our community, right, she has lived experience, she understands. And so we need a diverse group of people to do this work who have a variety levels of experiences, but having people who look like the people that we serve is important. I think that lived experience is really important. Thank you for that question, though. Thank you. I can't, I'm sorry.
You said beds available each night. Population 1,000 a year. How do you that gap between your needs?
Yeah, I think I got the question. How do we only have 8 beds, right? And we serve 3,000 people. Like, how do we manage that gap in service? And we really try hard to find an alternative for our children, right? Our children who may have a stable home with a family member for a while, and while we are keeping, providing resources for them. And so we know that that's best, right? If we can find a family member, we navigate those alternatives before we take them in. And so that's how we manage it. But it's really hard. It really is a challenge. But we are committed to not turning any kids away. We connect them to other resources and partners and collaborate with other organizations in our community.
Gloria, I have a question in terms of the human trafficking that we know that goes on here in Madison. I'm interested, does Briarpatch reach out to the places where the pickups are going on at Easttown Mall and so forth? Are you able to do anything in sort of a preventive way with regard to the trafficking?
It has been a significant challenge to stop the human trafficking because our victims are so they're just in it, and it's so hard for them to share. We work closely with our police departments in a variety of jurisdictions. We have our outreach team who is out at our parks and downtown who really try to build that trust and those relationships so that we can bring people away from that environment. But it has been a challenge because it's, like I said earlier, it is so quiet and silent that it's hard to get victims away from that situation. But really is continuing to develop those relationships and trust. We're continuing to connect. So when they're ready, we're ready to intervene. And the Madison Police Department has only one detective working on these types of cases, but the numbers are really high here locally and even statewide. Yes.
Hi, I'm Karen Kendrick Hand. Thanks for sharing the community resource with us today for the history.
It's not on, I don't think, but I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can't believe you can't hear me. So I understand that there's a gap when kids turn 18, they age out of foster care and a lot of services. What could our club do to help fill that gap?
Yeah, because once you become 18, right, it's really hard. Briarpatch just applied for a federal grant. It's called the housing, what was it called, Tyler?
Well, a couple of things. Clarify that. So our street outreach program.
Yes. Okay.
So our street outreach program actually serves, we're funded to serve up to 24. So that age population does get captured in the work that we do. So we really focus on 17 to 24. And HUD has put out to a lot of different communities, but it's called the Homeless Demonstration Project.
That's it, yeah.
And that grant is, once secured, it's funded through HUD. It's really to come up with creative solutions for these problems that, we talk about youth, and a lot of times we don't think about youth and the developmental appropriateness. We think 18, they're adults now, and that's not true. So we have to work with young people, and unfortunately we have seen a real lack of resources for that specific population, because 18-year-olds just get lumped in with all the other adults, especially in homelessness. So those services and those systems are not really built to prevent and end homelessness for young people effectively. So that's something that we are definitely focused on. That's what our team, Lily, with myself, that's our focus. Is how we disrupt that pattern and help that age population.
And I think when we, that's a challenge, right? Street outreach, we do have that. We can cover that population, as Tyler mentioned. And that is the population that we see at Ryandale Park occasion and other areas. But when we talk to, when we start talking about kids who are under 18, we did apply for that Youth Homeless Demonstration Project federal grant for our city. And if we are able to get that funding opportunity, Briarpatch is the organization that will lead that effort. That's when we can get the resources for our 18 and up. It's an opportunity for us as a community to not only do the street outreach, but then also providing shelter and other services, because 18-year-olds in a adult homeless shelter is just not a conducive place for them, right? We need a special homeless shelter or in services for that population. Thank you for asking that question.
So you didn't tell us how we could help.
Yes. I think that once we get the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, it definitely need community support, resources, funding for street outreach is definitely needed. I mean, I think just the basic needs. I think we have to think big picture, developing and investing in a comprehensive plan on how we're going to respond to the homeless issue in the City of Madison and Dane County. And so I think that it is your minds, your energy, your commitment, your volunteer, your resources and funding it will be helpful in closing the gap. And so, yeah, I think that, I hope that answers your question. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that as I thank you, Juan, and Juan was a former CEO of Briarpatch too, so I just want to give you some kudos. You set the stage for many of us. Thank you. I think that it is really, I think having, as I mentioned, the lived experience, right? Understanding those, the communities that we serve and the most vulnerable firsthand as a law enforcement officer, being there, being in that space, living in poverty, not knowing where you were going to eat the next day, having that lived experience, also seeing it as a law enforcement officer, as deputy mayor, as the president of the school board, really brings all those skills and experiences together to be able to serve this population. And so thank you. I know I'm going to get kicked off the stage. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future here and in other Rotarian meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Rotarians, we are adjourned.